G'day and welcome back. Today I'm going to try something a little different. I have this Kaiser W1835 radio here. This was a radio I bought. It was one of the very first radios I bought as a practice radio to try and work out how things worked and to improve my knowledge of radios and how to fix them. So I've never done anything to the case or anything. It's just the way it is. It's a West German radio. It has a record player on the top, which we'll have a look at later perhaps. I picked this up from a house in Sydney and it was near the bay. It's been stored out in a shed or something. The moisture's got into it. It absolutely ruined the dial here. I've actually resprayed it with this green here. This is the original part of the dial that's not so affected. Around here it actually just lifted off completely. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the aesthetics. It was just a radio for me to work on and, as I said, get used to repairing them. Now, I did use this for a number of years as the radio that I used while I was working on other radios, but it developed a fault and I stopped using it in preference for the Hacker radio that I got from GT Jeff and Radio Cruncher in the UK. So I've been using that. This one's been put aside. It developed a crackle and it sounded like silver mica disease. I don't think it is silver mica. I'll turn around and I'll show you what's going on. Here's the back view, a very simple layout for a German radio. As I said, I don't think it is silver mica. I think the noise is coming from the two electrostatic speakers there. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's trying to service these two electrostatic speakers. I've already done some troubleshooting. I've disconnected the main speaker and I've inserted a resistor in its place. That'll stop overloading the output valve. I'll spin it around, put some power on, and I'll demonstrate what the issue is. I'll turn it on. I'll put it on FM. I think it's powered on. Right, it's warmed up. I'll turn it up. Now the sound's only coming out of the right electrostatic speaker. So it is working, but very distorted. Now this is the left speaker. And I don't think that's working at all. When I was testing it the other day, that left speaker was making a crackling noise, and that was what I assume is the silver mica disease type noise. Having said that, I've turned it down and the right speaker is actually making noises like that. I'll try it on jazz, see if I can know what's going on. I just tried putting it in jazz and then they've all stuck in now. I can't get them out, so that's something else I've got to sort out. Anyway, the point is I'm going to have a go at these electrostatic speakers. I'll remove this one, it's easier. This one's got capacitors and resistors, so I'll leave that there and do this one first. I'll just quickly unsolder it. And there's two nuts to remove as well. It should come off. Now this is what it looks like on the other side. There's a perforated plate there. It's plastic on that side, made in Germany it says there. This needs to come off so we can get inside. They've melted over little plastic pegs here, or pins. I'll see if I can just sort of break off around the edges so that I can reuse them to put it back together again. So give me a second, I'll just see if I can prise around the edges there. I've managed to remove the excess plastic there and get this off. I've scratched up the little plate a bit more than I wanted to, and that's what's inside it. I'll explain how these work in layman's terms because that's about the level that I have. This is the stator, it's called a stator, this perforated bit. There's a plastic bit in the middle here, that's conductive on one side. That connects to this terminal here by this conductive strip, and there's a terminal on the outside there. This normally would have foam on it that would push it up against this plastic strip and make contact. These have high voltage on them, so they have B+ or just something under B+ applied to them. They also have the audio signal attached to it or on top of this B+, the same as it does for the output transformer. So with the B+ on here, you've set up an electric field and the AC signal makes this little plastic diaphragm here vibrate and it produces the sound. Of course it's tweeter only, it's only used for the high frequency end. The common failure is for this foam, like in this case, to fail. This one was still working to a degree, but of course it had lost its compliance and tended to vibrate. It was also intermittent. Let's check this and I'll just see if it has continuity. I've got the meter here on ohms and we'll see. Okay, so this one's still in good condition. You could probably reassemble this, put some new foam in it, and it would probably work again. My friend Raymond Maynard over in Canada, he has a YouTube channel as well. He's just starting out. It's called Vintage Radio Café. I'll leave a link in the description. You can go and say hello if you want. He does German radios and has trouble with these speakers as well. He did try getting a few working. He couldn't do it, so he looked for a source for this material here, this plastic. And he ended up back in Australia, over in Western Australia, a gentleman called Rob. He's at ER Audio. They specialise in electrostatic speakers. Here's the website for ER Audio. Have a look at that if you want. I'll put that in the description as well. He has been enormously helpful to Raymond and myself, and he supplied some of this material here, and we might be able to use that to get this working again. Here are the sheets that Rob sent myself and Raymond, and I think I've got about 4 here, and I've already taken one out and started to cut it up for my project. He also included some of this, looks like copper strip. It's self-adhesive on one side, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to work in this type of speaker, because I think I need to have it facing the other way. But anyway, we'll work that out later. I've prepared everything I need. I cut a 60mm diameter disc of this conductive plastic sheet, and I used my vinyl cutter to do that. That worked very well. I also laser cut a little piece of foam here, and I tried to copy what the original foam looked like. There is a problem, and it's to do with the edge of this foil. I have the original piece of the plastic disc under my microscope here, and you can see there's a margin around the edge where they haven't put the conductive material. My concern is the conductive coating goes right up to the edge here. It doesn't have that little margin around there, so whether it could jump across there and get some arcing or sparking, I'm not sure. So what I've done is cut a little ring of mylar sheet here. It's very, very thin, and that can sit on here and then, you know, create that margin between this surface here and this surface. I'll remove this bit of tape they've got as an insulator there, and that's not really even stuck. And this ring, I will put some spray adhesive on one side, and I'll just glue it in there. I've sprayed some adhesive on it. I've made the outside diameter the same as this little ridge that's here, so it should sit down. Is there something there, is there? No, it's okay. Alright, so that should stay there. I have some Tipton tape here. I'll put that in there. I've put some adhesive on the back of this foam, and I'll stick that in there. I've put the glue on because I've got to sort of hold all this together, so that'll just hold that for me. I'm going to use this existing strip here. It's in good enough condition. I have a little disc here. The shiny side is supposed to be the conductive side. Yeah, okay. When they assembled this, they used a bit of adhesive to hold this in place, so I'll do the same. I've just got some double-sided tape here. I have the tape about there. I'll try and line it up with the Tipton tape. I'm going to try and get that in the center. God, it's not easy. Alright, I was avoiding touching this, so I didn't put oil marks on it. It's got my finger marks on it, and I'll just wipe it off with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. If Rob's watching this, I'm sorry. I have the conductive sheet facing the right way. Now that should go together like that, and I think it should stay together while I clip it in place, like that. Alright, and we should be able to give that a try. I've put a little clamp on there just to hold it together. It tended to want to spring apart. I'm not putting my hand on it while it's running, that's for sure. I just want to make sure it isn't shorted out inside, so that looks alright. And I'll use some clip leads to connect it back into the original speaker wires. And I'll push the button, see what happens. Yeah, it's working, I can hear it. Sounds better. I wouldn't say it sounds fantastic, but it does work. I'll just see what the differential voltage is on this. Yeah, 251 volts DC. So a bit of potential there. Turn it up again. Now that's pretty loud. In fact, that's flat out. That's actually full volume. it's kind of hanging in there, so a more normal volume would be there. That's working alright, I reckon. I think that'll do. I'm happy with that. I'll melt these little studs over again, that'll hold it in position. But I could probably experiment, change things around a bit, you know, do all sorts of things. But it's working well enough, and it's working better than it was. I'll finish this off and I'll take the other speaker out. We'll have a look at that one. This is the other one, and I've broken all the plastic off. So it should come out. Immediately I can see the problem here. That should be attached to that, but it's not. That strip there, of course, is supposed to be under this rivet and hang down here. Rob sent those strips. Maybe I can use one of those. I might have to take this out and you know, put a new rivet in there. I thought I'd do a comparative test. This is the speaker I just pulled out. The other speaker is actually mounted back in the cabinets behind this grill here. And what I've done is added a bit of wire between here and the conductive strip, so it's just connected that back up again. So this has the original diaphragm in it, but I've put a new foam behind it. I just want to see if this one sounds any better or worse than the one I've repaired. To my ear, they sound exactly the same, so I know they don't put out a lot of power, and this one's particularly small. The other ones are slightly larger than that. Look, I think it's working as well as the original. So I'll do a permanent repair on this one. There's a little bit of wire I used to make contact with the old conductive strip. Here's a conductive strip that Rob from ER Audio has sent us, and it is very thin. It's self-adhesive on one side, but the strip itself is super thin. I'll get this bit of wire out. It looks like the tab here is in fact the rivet that goes through the other side, and it's just been pinned over there. I wonder if I could open that back or close that up so I can push it through again. Maybe I can reuse the same one. I'm trying to bend that back, but boy, it's tough stuff. It's not bending. I thought it would just, you know, fold over. It's not going to there. It might be. I've managed to push that in as far as I can. It already had a crack there. I don't want to make that worse if I can help it. I'll see if I can sort of jimmy it up here. No, I'm putting too much pressure on the plastic. Oh, there it goes. Oh, there it goes. I've cleaned up in there, and I've cleaned the back up a little bit. I cleaned this up, and I think what I'll do is cut that off, make it flat, and I'll put it together with a screw. I thought of doing that originally, but I didn't think the screw was going to be small enough, but it's perfect. So that's a 3mm screw, it's a 3mm hole. I'll go and cut all that off and we'll put it all together. I have ground that little terminal down flat, and it's now 3mm. I've put a 3mm hole in that copper strip, so I should be able to just mount this all together. I'll just take this adhesive back off. I've peeled the backing away, and hopefully I can just kind of glue this on here. Gosh, it's so thin. And there's the little tag or lug and the screw, so that should go through there. There we go. I'll just put a nut on the back. There's a 3mm nut on there. I've even got a lock washer under there. I can't get a socket on the other side. I'll just do the screw up, but that's okay. The little tabs in between that and the contact here. That looks alright, and would have made good contact there. Right, the same as last time, I've put a bit of adhesive on the back of this foam, so that'll sit there. Now, I'll take that off. Actually, I'm not sure. I should have checked the length, shouldn't I? Just lay that there. It's too long, I need to cut that off. And a little plastic insulator ring. I've put some adhesive on that, so that'll stick down there. Same as last time, bit of Tipton tape there. And some double-sided tape on the non-conductive side of the diaphragm there. I've got to make sure this is centered inside that insulated plastic strip and then push it down. Yeah, good. Once again, I'll clean off any fingerprints I put on there. Just make sure everything's in the right place and clip it together like that. Okay, let's give that a try. Right, I'm set up to give it a try. I checked to make sure it wasn't shorted, which there really shouldn't be any shorts in there. I'll turn it up and we'll see what it sounds like. So it's working as well as the old one and the one I did before. So they're all about the same. So as I did the last time, I'll melt over the little plastic pins and I'll put it back in the radio. I put those two electrostatic speakers in and I just want to see what is wrong with this switch pack here. It doesn't come out. I've taken the bottom off the radio. I'm trying not to take the actual chassis out if I can help it. There's some screws there. I'll see what happens. If it all falls apart, I'll have to take the whole thing out. Alright, let's see what happens. I sort of really don't think this is going to work. I'm going to have to take it out of the case. I've got the radio out of the case. The switch is here, and if I look down here, I can see the latch. That little angled metal bit is the latch. So if I can trigger it, it should release. It doesn't want to release. Okay, something's stuck. I'll try this end. I can get my finger on the little latch there. So if there it goes. If I push it, it'll come out. I wonder what happened. That's worked perfectly for years. So yeah, I don't know what happened. Alright, I'll put it all back together and we'll try it out. I put the chassis back in and I've put some power on it, but it has the problem I described at the start where I thought it had silver mica disease. The volume's right down. Now it's on speech here. If I put it on jazz, there's the noise. If I put it on orchestra, there's the noise again. I've taken the radio out and it's just sitting on its end here, ready for me to have a look at. Here is the output stage on the circuit that I've got. The AM and FM signals coming in here. There's the volume control. The volume control then heads up to the triode of the EACB 80, then through the plate there, and then it goes through these little capacitors. That's the coupling capacitor, these little tone shaping capacitors. Up in the corner here, that's the three switches, and it's in orchestra position. That says that it's already selected to orchestra. So what I worked out is by manipulating these two switches here, you virtually eliminate these two tone capacitors. In either case, like in that position now, that one is bypassed because that switch is bypassing it. If you select it to, I think, jazz or anything but orchestra, that is closed off and you eliminate all that. Now what I've done is lifted this capacitor here. This is the coupling capacitor. I have lifted it at this point here. The reason is it's so loud, the noise, I couldn't hear myself think. With that capacitor lifted, of course we won't be able to hear it, but I can put my signal tracer on there and then I can adjust the volume. I've powered the radio up and I'll put the signal tracer there, and that is that point there on the schematic. So I'll put the signal tracer on and there's the noise. There it is. I'll move it to here, which is that point there. The noise is still there. I'll go another step further back and it's still there. The noise is still there. I'll take the two valves out, see if that stops it. This one's a little warm. There we go. I've got power on and that has started before the valves are even warmed up. Well, there's no valves. That came on straight away. Now I just realised that this doesn't have a rectifier valve. Let's go further along. And we'll go here. Now it's still there. I've connected it to that point there. There's the B plus supply going up for the plate of the EABC 80. And there's the plate for the EL84 output valve. So really there's not a lot of difference in the voltage across there. It could be that one. Now that's a 5 nanofarad, so that's 0.05. I would have changed that. That'll be new. Could be that one, I suppose. I can probably lift it from this point here. There's the 25 picofarad, which is that one there. And there's the new capacity. You can't see it, it's sticking behind this green thing. But there's a new 0.05 capacitor there. So it won't be that. It may be this, I suppose. I can lift that up there, and that will take all that out of the circuit. Alright, they're off. Let's see if it's still got that. I can hear it straight away. So that did not do anything. I'll turn it off again. So I've lifted that there. That's a new capacitor, so it won't be that. I'll lift this one here, from here, and we'll see if that stops it. I'll put some power on again. Oh, straight away. Ooh, power. So I got it on orchestra. If I put it on jazz, we're switching those two switches here around. So that negates those ones. And you put it on speech, and it pretty much stops. Yeah, it stopped. Then you put it on speech here. There's only two switches involved. So, well, that's one of them. There it is there. And the other one is down here. But that's totally disconnected, that section. That is lifted there. There's no valve in there. So that section is disconnected. Wow. I don't know what's going on. So what are we looking at? That valve is out. That valve's out. This from here is open-ended. That's disconnected there. So that's not going anywhere. That's disconnected there. So all of that is open-ended. The noise is here. And it's here. Why don't we go the other side of this one here? Nothing. Okay, so that would indicate that it's this resistor here. That's 100k. Now just very roughly soldering these wires in. I'll have to come back and do it properly. I'll put the tracer back here. This is where it was noisy before. Power on. There it is. It's still there. What? Huh. I really thought that was going to be the fault. There's a power coming through here. It goes through here, and as I said, it's just sitting there, and it doesn't matter what you do with these two switches. Either way, the signal or the noise still gets through. In fact, it's here. What if I lift that off there? I don't see how it's coming back here because there's virtually nothing connected here. That's missing. That's missing. That's lifted. I don't know. I'll lift it off there, see what happens. Actually, what I'll do is I'll lift it here because I can get to this one easily. There it is. Actually, I'll lift this red wire off too. I think that goes up to the magic eye. So I've lifted that and I've taken this one off here, which I'm pretty sure goes to the magic eye. I'll put that on there. No noise this time. Ah, quiet. Okay, noise is gone. I'll connect this wire here. And that's the magic eye. It's just humming. It's not making any crackling though. I'll turn the power off again. I'll connect these two resistors again. So I'll put power back on. And so now I am here. New resistor in here. I've removed that line there. But there's no noise down here. But it's there. But there's nothing up there. I'll disconnect this resistor from this point here if I can. Okay. Power on again. And that's quiet now. Okay. So if I put it over here, there's the noise. What? I'll turn the power off again. Alright, so I'll connect this resistor back here because the noise has stopped without the power applied up here. So that's where it's disconnected. Oh well, maybe I'll disconnect one of these. Maybe it is one of these. I can take that one out easy enough. It's just sitting here. So now I've disconnected this capacitor here. So we've only got this capacitor left in there. Wow. Now the other thing left is this little guy here, which is that 100 picofarad. Okay, we're going to take this little 100 picofarad capacitor out. I'll put some power on. I'll connect here. Oh, come on. I've got the tracer here and it's still making a noise. That's disconnected there. Look, the switch is still in circuit. Gosh, am I really clutching at straws here? That'll be the switch there. That blue wire, I think. Yeah, the blue one. Alright, I'll take that off and that will totally disconnect. That will be disconnected there then. Maybe it's the switch. Okay. Right, I've now disconnected that switch there. I'll put the tracer back on here. And logically, there shouldn't be any noise. No, there's not. So maybe it's the switch. Let's turn the power off for a second. I've got a clip on there. If I connect here and turn the power, that's doing it already. It's not even powered up. That's the switch. So it's just the switch that's doing that? There's no power on the set. It's turned off. Right, what I feel like doing now is reassembling everything. Put all the capacitors and bits and pieces back on, fit this resistor correctly, and leave that blue wire off and see if the noise goes away. I've reconnected all the components in here, made them a bit neater looking. This blue wire here is still off. I've got a clip lead here and I'll be able to connect that blue wire up when I get some power on it. The coupling capacitor is not soldered on, but it is resting on the little connection there, so it should come through the speaker, I'm hoping. I'll put some power on. It is on dim bulb. I don't think I've done anything wrong in there. The bulb's not even coming on. I've got the two valves in too. Now it's warmed up. I'll turn it up. Yeah, so there's a station with that blue wire disconnected. There's no crackling. I'll connect this up again. And it's in speech. I'll put it on jazz or something, and there it is. If I put it on speech, it stops, and the reason is, and I've worked it out. Now what I worked out was, and I was a little slow when I was doing this before, that little wire there between this wire here and that number 3 on that switch, which I've nearly obliterated, I'm lifting that wire off, but it's exactly the same as putting speech in and opening that switch. And there's the speech up there. You push the switch in and it opens 2 and 3. There it is there. So it opens that switch. So me lifting that blue wire is exactly the same as pushing speech on that front panel. So that means that now the signal is coming through. It's going through that 100 puff capacitor. It's going through the 160. It's going through a little tone control there. Unless you're in jazz, and then that's closed, so that'll all be bypassed. It's got to be that section of the switch that's making the noise. So I'm thinking it's the switch contacts on the back of this one here. I haven't actually connected everything up. This little capacitor here is still out of circuit, and that's that one there. Let's put it back on jazz again. It's not having much effect. I'll put an orchestra. It's just, that quietens it down, doesn't it? But you're probably changing the, you might be filtering it out. Perhaps I'll take that potentiometer out of the circuit. Alright, put power on. I've just connected the two wires together and removed that potentiometer out of the circuit.
Doctor talks about empowering women and girls travail outward.
Yeah, that's got rid of it. So is it that, the potentiometer? I just solder that little capacitor in. Power it on again.
What was she like? Oh, she likes making drums. And you didn't learn from her?
So it must be that thing. The potentiometer. Look at that. I can't believe it. I'll take it out, I guess, see what's going on in there. Now to get that potentiometer out, I've got to take that shroud off. I've got a little spanner here. There's 2 bolts inside there. Yeah, it fits. So I'll remove those. I'll loosen this wheel off. I might be able to give myself a bit more room in here. I think I've got enough. I can actually bend the glass a little bit. There he goes. So that should come off too now. Alright, and there'll be a nut in there. I need to use a socket to get onto the nut there. I couldn't because this little indicator was in the way, so I had to take the dial glass off and bend a couple of tabs. I've moved the indicator away so I can get a socket on it now. But yeah, a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Alright, oops. I have the potentiometer here and I've kind of wired it back in using clips. I've also connected that blue wire in the back here, so it should make a crackle. I'll just put some power on. It's warmed up, yeah. There's no sound though, no crackling. I bet it's leaking back to ground. Hang on. There it is. So it must have some sort of connection between this wiper here and ground. Let's see if I can get this clip out of here. It should come apart. I've only got a small amount of room to work here. This radio has taken up most of my bench. It's got some little burrs there. I'll have to clean them off. Okay, that's got it. There it is. It's pretty tarnished, so I guess I can only clean it up. Looks alright. I mean, the little track there looks fine. I'll clean it all up and we'll see there is a little carbon brush that sits in there and that's fallen on the floor. So I'll crawl around the floor and grab it and I'll try and put it back together. But it's cleaned up pretty good. I found the little carbon follower. So that goes in here. Just like that. I'll put that on top. Alright. And the little circlip to go on. I've put the clips back on. Put some power on. It's warmed up. Yep. No sound. No sound. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'll put it all back together and I can test out the electrostatic speakers, which is what I started to do half a day ago. So let me do all that and I'll come back. I refitted the potentiometer. I thought I'll try it before I do put it back in the case, but it's still doing it and you can hear it there. So it has dropped it. It's not as bad as it was, but it's still doing it. I have another one that I salvaged out of another German radio. This is a stereo one. That one of course is mono, but this will work alright. These are 5 meg. It's a bit short in the shaft, so I've made a little sleeve here. I'll cut the shaft and just glue the sleeve in the middle, so that should fix that. I'll fit this and well try it again. I think this will fix it. The radio's back in the cabinet. I changed that potentiometer and all that noise is gone, so there's nothing there at all. It's not orchestra, no noise, jazz, no noise, and speech, no noise. So working really well. I've got it on the station there. Sounds good. I have my 2 Rode wireless mics here. I'm going to hold them up to the electrostatic speakers. That's what this video is supposed to be about to start with. I'll have to cut bits out to avoid copyright. Now up the top is a record player. It's semi-automatic, so you have to flick it over there and then you can put it on the record. I'll turn that up.
Suspect I'm afraid.
Bit of King and I there.
While shivering in my shoes, I strike a can and no one ever knows I'm afraid. The result.
I hope that came out alright. I won't know until I edit it, but hopefully you could hear the electrostatic speakers. Anyone doing German radios knows that those speakers are always a problem. They generally are not working, but as we saw, you can repair them successfully. So once again, thanks to Rob at ER Audio over in Perth there. He specialises in top quality, top of the range speakers, so he's going to be horrified when he sees what these are like. But he was very helpful to myself and Raymond over in Canada, as I said earlier. So thank you very much, Rob, for your help. He was very interested in seeing what we were doing. So I hope you enjoyed following along. I hope it's helpful to you. Thank you everyone for watching, and take care, and I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure.